Hello everybody, my name is Farmer Phil, and in today's video, this is one of the last jobs the Paus loader will be doing. Is going back this week and we're going to film day feeding with the Paus, and we're also going to give it a review at the end of the video and get Father Phil and kind of what her thoughts are on the machine, what we liked and what we disliked about it, and we may do some of that while I'm feeding, just to kind of show you different things while I'm at it. But anyways, I take off this drone bag, we'll fire up the drone later on. First job anyways, we'll go push into all the cattle and then we'll go start feeding. So, just going to push into the timber shed, the old cow shed. Everywhere else that I do pushing in is always back and forth, but here I can make good use of my swing, because what I can do is I can swing my boom side to side and push into them, both sides. That's one thing that I can do with the boom for pushing in. Also, when I'm pushing in, one of my jobs is to make sure that see how much everyone has, so that I know how much I'm to put into the ration for each batch, so that just to match it up, that they're not getting too much, that they're not going to eat it all, or that they'll eat it all by the time they get fed the next time. It's just to make sure that everyone gets eaten and that there's nothing being wasted. But anyways, we'll finish up the pushing in. So we've all pushed into, and there's quite a lot of food in front of most of them, so we're going to cut back all the rations a little bit and see how we go on. So what I'm doing now is leaving out my minerals. So rather than stopping every time to put in my minerals, I leave them out in piles. And then that way, all I have to do is come in, I get my barley and I get my minerals on the one lump. So it saves me quite a bit of time. There's no stopping. Go start the day feeder. So we're ready to go. So we've started to pack the day feeder. Oh, it could be a bit windy. We've started to pack the day feeder in the pit, because we're well through the pit now. We are well through the pit. Maybe you can't really tell, but we're at the last pillar. So what's left of the pit is from there to the back wall, and we've eaten a lot. But we have lots more silage, you can see, and the pit always generally is taken, it goes out of that kind of an angle. And near enough the same with the maize. The maize is past the last pillar, so we are starting to run out of maize. But in another week's time or 2 weeks time, that's when all the cattle start going. We start killing maybe a load or two load a week, so that completely changes. As it is, we've one load gone, so that's probably why they're not eating as much, particularly the bulls. So it's just them few cattle less makes the difference. But give it 2 weeks, 3 weeks time, when we really get into it, won't be going through the pits as much, and we'll just have to see how it pans out. But definitely I think the maize will run out, but we should have enough whole crop. Should have. Oh, the dogs must have found something. Anyways, first feeder is for the calves in the bottom shed. They get 2 feeders. 2 feeders of 2 ton of silage, anywhere from 1800 to 2 ton. They have a fair bit of silage, so I'll probably give them around 1800. So we get 2 of that. Dip a whole crop, and then the rest made up of first and second cut silage, to just keep them growing. And that's the first feeder going in. So that's one day feeder in. Second day feeder is for the same shed, just other end, and it's the very same mix. So we fire that in, but with the cameras, not easy work with one hand. Anyways, we get these lads fed up. And that's feeder number 2. So something else we've done since you would have seen this shed last is we've separated the shed. So the upper 2 bays of the shed we put in gates, and we put any of the smaller calves. There was nothing really wrong, but we just put the smaller calves up the top end and we're giving them a bit of meal. And also we do have one problem in the shed, and that is they're riding each other at an awful rate. So there's always one calf that is getting a very sore back from being rode. So every day Liv goes through the shed. If she sees one, you know by looking at them, and we move them up into this pen. And if there's anyone riding in that pen, so the ones that are jumping on others, they get moved back out into the other pen. Probably saying, well, why didn't we divide up all the shed? Rather than having one calf getting rode by how many is in the bottom shed, we'd have 4 or 5 pens of calves, and 4 or 5 or one in each of them pens. So you'd have 4 or 5 calves getting rode rather than just the one calf. I know what a lot of people do is they'll hang an electric fence. We go in and out of the shed every week to clean out the feeding passage and along the barrier, just to try and help keep the thing clean. And we'll be constantly opening and closing and opening and closing, and it'd be very messy. So the easiest thing to do is just manage them and keep chopping and changing calves. But Liv looks after that job, so I give her a hand when she needs it. We get this feeder in. We've one more calf feeder to put in for the calves, for our heifers and bullock calves, and then we're on to the finishing rations. That's slave feeder number 3. Going in there now. So our next feeder is our finishing ration. Next 3 feeders are finishing rations. So that's the one for the bulls on the slats and the bedded shed, one for the bullocks and bulls on the other side of the bedded shed, and then one for the heifers. So the heifers are now on the finishing ration. Everything is on the finishing ration, and we've already killed the first bull. Yes, Liv? You're done? All okay? No issues? Everybody happy? Everybody's happy. So what goes into the bull's ration, or the finishing ration, is maize, whole crop, first cut silage, barley, beans and oats mixed, and the biscuit meal. But the heifers don't get any biscuit meal, because one of the biggest challenges with heifers is making sure you get the wake in without letting them go too fat. And so we don't feed them biscuit meal, but the rest get biscuit meal. So I'm going to fire up the drone, show you the house loader in action. So just going in to get my bucket of meal. One of the big advantages to the swing loader is I will get my one next to the wall. I can swing her out to the side, hard operate with one hand, and I can just nice and handy get all along the wall without having to get my wheels next or near the wall without getting caught. That has one advantage to the swing in the meal shed anyways. The boom is very well suspended, and I can go backwards quite lively without spilling all meal. I wouldn't be able to do this with the teleporter. I wouldn't carry as much in the bucket because I'd know I'd spill a lot more. So, but yeah, handy job so this. So that is feeder number 4 going in, the finishing ration for the bull. I get these fed and then 2 more feeders, and then that is the diet feeding finished and the Paus loader finishing one of its last jobs here in the farm. Working. That's the bullocks getting their bit. The bull's getting their feed. So, we're putting in the last diet feeder now. I have a second camera running there behind me to just kind of see what's in front. And so yeah, gonna give the Paus loader a bit of a review on how it's worked diet feeding. I've put a lot of hours on this machine, a lot of hours. As it stands at the minute, there's 111 hours on the machine, and it arrived with 36. So I'm quickly trying to do mental maths. So it's 70 would be 74 hours is what I've put on this in just over 3 weeks. Most of that time has been spent doing this job. This is the job that has to be done every day. Every day this job has to be done. Cattle have to be fed. So a lot of them hours are put on this, and I am well versed in how this machine operates. I really have got the full grips up with it. So we're going to, this is going to be divided now. I'm going to talk about how it's worked as a diet feeding vehicle or as a loading for the diet feeder, and then there'll be an overall review of everything, the likes, dislikes and that. Also the beeper, which is quite loud, and when you think about it, is very annoying. A lot of people said try the dimmer. That camera doesn't like being there. Try the dimmer, try a lot of things to see would it go quieter, and I've tried all them and no. The big advantages to this loader on the diet feeding is in the meal shed. Like you'll see either in the bottom corner or wherever Liv puts that I can swing the loader to the side so that I can get into the meal. So it's in the meal shed where the swing is its most useful when it comes to diet feeding, as I can use it to maneuver in the meal shed. I can get it nice and tight along the walls. That's where it really is its most useful. But when it comes to the swing in general, outside of the meal shed, I wouldn't use it that much. It's what's the best way of putting it? Because our yard is quite large. Our silage pit is something like 100 foot of a face, or it's either 80 or 100. I can't remember. Our pit is nearly square. And because of that, I've lots of space. There is no shortage of space. Like taking a grab from the very far corner and then trying to get sideways to it just to use the swing doesn't make sense. It's as easy just to turn away from it. So I'd rarely use the swing. If I used it maybe 3 or 4 times in the day, that'd be it. Where we used to park the diet feeder, which will be behind me now, I'd never use the swing when we had it there. It didn't make any sense because you'd never go to it square. It was also on a bit of a slope, so it never felt the most comfortable. But where the diet feeder is now, if I'm taking end that's in a straight line back from the face, that's the only time I use the swing. Other than that, I just go in square. And that, one of the other handy benefits to the swing, if for whatever reason you didn't get lined up square, you can always just swing her to the side a little bit and you're square. Same goes for when you're taking a lump out of the pit. You can always, if you're not square, you can just swing her a little bit side to side and you get yourself square. You're not caught where you have to back and maneuver yourself back into the pit. Also, I suppose one of the big things as well, because this is what this machine spends most of its time doing, have I saved any time getting into this machine? Yes, I have. I've knocked about half an hour off my feeding time. It used to take me about 2 hours to feed the 6 diet feeders. Now I do it an hour and a half. And as I just said, I don't use the swing that much, so it really is down to just the extra size and weight of this machine that I can get far bigger grabs a silage with half the effort. I suppose one thing I haven't said, and this goes for most of the videos I've made in the Paus when I'm comparing or talking about it, I'm coming from the standpoint of what we normally have. The most used vehicle loader I've ever used, the 520-50. A 5-ton machine, 0-2, doesn't have all these extra mod cons that a newer shovel has, so that has to be kept in mind when I'm talking about this, because that's what I'm kind of comparing it to. So that's where I've saved the most time, is basically down to just the size and the weight. I get much bigger grabs. One of the other, I just have it finished now, but one of the other big advantages that I found with this loader is it has an automatic brake. So I'll just kind of show you now. So you can see there at the minute, parking brake is on, but I'm in forward. You can see it says forward. I put my foot in the throttle, brake goes off, I start moving. I take my foot off the throttle, brake comes on, and it's in park. And that is the best feature of this loader for diet feeding, because when I drive into the face of the pit, I just let my foot off the throttle and it holds itself in the pit. I can close the grab. There's that much hydraulic flow on this, it closes the grab in an instant, just down, no bother to it at all. Whereas with the teleporter, I had to be constantly driving into the pit to get it to stay in the pit. With this, that's the best feature. When driving into the diet feeder, you just let your foot off the accelerator, she slows down, you pop it in the meal shed. At every job I put it into that system, that automatic handbrake braking thing, I've never used the brake in this machine. I pressed it about 4 times since I got it till I kind of realized that I don't need to. That is one of the best features of this machine. I know the swing loader is handy, but I absolutely love this automatic braking when it comes to doing the diet feeding. Just anyways, we'll end this diet feeder and then we're going to give this machine a wash. I'm going to go through it, the bits I like, I don't like, give it the pros and cons of the machine, and then we'll get Father Phil, we'll let him do the same, and then we'll finish off the video of what we think of the machine in general across all the jobs we've done, because we have pulled through its paces. Talk about that later. We'll get this diet feeder in, then we get her washed, and then we can give her a final review before she goes back to where she came. So anyways, this is it. The Paus TSL 9088 loader is ready to go back now. The lorry Ford will be here any minute. So this is the review of it, how we got on. I've put on a lot of hours on it, nearly 100 hours. I'm spending a full day every week, 24 hours a week on the machine since we got it. And boys, it is some machine. So the jobs that we done with the diet feeding, while I did save time, I saved about half an hour a day with this machine. It wasn't so much due to the swing, it was more so due to the size of the machine, getting bigger grabs, a little bit livelier around the yard. But the swing was very handy when it come to the meal shed. We also loaded bales with it, and she was really good at loading bales. We were loading them off the field. You had so much less ground compaction because you could just drive back from the loader, drive back from the trailer, swing her out, pick up a bale and drive forward again. You didn't have to drive round and in and back and round. Saved so much ground compaction, so much quicker getting the bales loaded, and didn't damage the ground as much. Though the last load we did fill, ground was very sticky, but we got it done. The grain, the job that just sold this machine to me, Father. Could not ask for a better machine at grain. You just driving in, driving back, swinging her, tipping it, driving in, picking up rolled stuff, swinging her right round into the trailer. We done the hedge cutting too, worked out quite well with the hedge cutting. The hedge cutter that we were using, the flail head on the pallet forks, it done the job, but it could have been better if, as I said in the video, if it was a headstock and a ram on it, it would have been a little bit nicer. But it showed that the loader had the power, has the hydraulic flow to do it. Everything we've put it to, it has been an advantage. The swing is the main part of this machine. and yeah, it is so handy. Now the pros and cons. Well, the biggest questions I always get asked with this: can it push silage? Will it push silage? I think it has the power. You had a wider set of tyres and things you'd manage, but this is the one thing why I'd never put it on a pit. The drive shaft goes between the two axles. There's no guard, there's nothing. So how that had stick crossing a pit, I don't know. So I'd never put in a pit for that reason. Well, the other downsides, the mirrors, you can see where I've them folded in. They're of no advantage, but when they were folded out, they were way out past the machine, and I done everything I could to try and set them up that they were in tight. I just had to fold them up, because when I was at meal in the shed, when I was in the tight spaces, they were in the way, so I had to fold them in, otherwise I was afraid I was going to break them. Something that I had to watch out for, so with the swing loader, when you swing it past a certain, where this sensor crosses that bar there, it locks the back axles. There's two rams, that's one of them there. There's a ram on each side, and it locks the back axle, so it keeps the chassis rigid rather than letting it swing side to side when you have her out to the side. But I found if you had that swung around and it locked and you're on level ground, it was very hard on itself. It'd take the wheels off the ground. It was very hard on itself. The reason I found out was the shed below there with the bulls, there's a bit of a gradient going up into it, and I had her swung around and I was pushing in, and next thing she just kind of went off, and when I swung her back around, she went poof. So it was a little bit hard on itself, and something I had to watch. So here, where your pipes for your attachments are here, this is where it plugs in, but it's not connected to the bit that swivels. So you had long pipes, quite long pipes. With the shear grab, we didn't have the pipes long enough, and they kept falling in between there, and they could get crimped, so I had to mind that. But that was more so we just didn't put on long enough pipes. But that's something I wouldn't be over keen on. But after that was really it. That was the only things I wouldn't, they were the cons, you could say. On the upsides, the hydraulics are super quick. Super quick. It is AdBlue, but we've burned, of all the hours upon it, we've put a fair bit of diesel in it. It's still, I haven't put any AdBlue in it. It has barely gone down the gauge. Diesel consumption now, this was one thing I was actually, now whether it was because I was saving time, but the teleporter, which is behind me, we'd fill that every 3 days, and it holds about 50 litres. This holds about 75 litres, and we fill this once a week. So every 24 hours work, we put 75 litres into it. I'm nearly 100% sure that is much easier than that on diesel and all the work we've done. We get into the cab. Oh, another thing I really liked, everything is on the joystick. Everything. You have forward, reverse, you have boom in and out, you have high, low, you have your in and out for the constant flow, and the hydraulics for hedge cutting. And on the back here, you have that, which is for your service for opening and closing the shear grab and twisting side to side. One of the things I was kind of afraid of was that twisting side to side would be hard done, but it's like very hard to do it without your thumb there, so it really is, you don't really make the mistake of twisting it by accident. The boom suspension on the road, we have had this on the road, and it is one of the most comfortablest articulated machines I've ever driven the road. A lot of loading shovels I've driven to be kind of very twitchy side to side. This is so comfortable to drive. The view from the cab is absolutely amazing. You can see everything, just really good. Driver comfort is excellent. Radio heater, just top-notch driver comfort. Oh, I love driving this machine. Automatic braking, you take your foot off the throttle. I've never had to use the brake pedal. Look at the brake pedal, how clean the brake pedal is. And then the throttle, can you see? The swing is what sells this machine. Everything we put to the swing came in use some way, from massive advantages in loading the bales and the grain to the diet feeding just in the meal shed, getting around in and out tight spaces, incredibly handy. Some of you may be asking, can the loader swing into the wheel? It can, but it stops you from doing so. When you swing so far, and if you're not high enough, it stops you. And there's a button here which you can use to override it, so if you have it boom down, you know you're clear, that you can override it to push sideways. But that's really it. Father Phil's here now, so we'll get his thoughts on it, but I'm very happy. The few cons that is on it aren't things that have put me off. What's your thoughts on it? Now, this is one thing, Father Phil hasn't actually got to drive it.
That
That was basically down to, while this was here Father Phil was flat out in the workshop doing other things, and it kind of come down to then towards the end that we were both to try and use it. I suppose neither of us have got that used to it, so I got well used to it. One thing I did forget to say, it did take quite a while to get used to. We had it a week before we made a video on it, as it just took a lot of getting used to working the one joystick and getting used to the swing and that.
Well, it's something new, they say.
Yeah, it took a bit getting used to. Right at the start I found myself, I wanted to turn the buck up, but I started twisting him. I was just trying to, my hand had to learn. What's your thoughts? You've seen Everton.
It's just a pity we have to change the loading shovel this year.
Yeah.
Because our intentions was to buy something for the yard. Because poor old Betsy is getting shook.
Shook. That's the best way of describing it.
We didn't even get to pull it into the workshop to do a few jobs on it.
No. But we'll get it in after the umbilical outfit.
But yeah, it's a lovely machine. It seems to be very practical in our yard.
Yeah.
You can swing that from side to side. I think it's a massive advantage. It seems to be very stable, neat and compact and big enough.
Yeah.
To do what we want to do in the yard.
Yeah.
It's just a pity we have to change the loading shovel, because it would be something I would be seriously considering. It's a big investment, but it's a long-term investment. Yeah. Even for a really load the bales, I thought it was a massive yoke. You put on a lovely neat load of bales without damaging the ground, because you didn't have to readjust the machine on the ground. Yeah. You could just swing in your boom to adjust your bale to where you wanted it. You know, so it has serious advantages now. And in the future, if we are going to do something with something in the yard, probably we'll be looking at something like that.
Yeah. One of the things, and even now Liv's father's a JCB dealer, but I always said in videos I'd love to get my hands on a TM 310, 320 one of them, but I get it very, very hard to look past the Paus now.
It's like an arm.
Yeah.
You know,
it gives you just so many more options. No matter what you're doing, speeds you up. You're saving diesel, you're saving wear on the tires because you're doing half the amount of turning and manoeuvring. I get very hard to look at anything else again.
You won't always be in the
square
right place every time.
Yeah.
But that allows you to be in the right place every time. Yeah, if there was anything to change on it, I'd change them quick release couplings where they're on the front. I know it's up there, it's nice and clean, it's out of the way. I'd have them down here somewhere neater.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I'd see in it. Because we did find it took a long pipe to... Everything has to have a downside.
Yeah.
That's the only downside, and it's a very small thing.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah. I'm trying to think, have we covered everything? One other thing, while the shear grab we have and the grain bucket that's on it, or the bucket that come with it, the machine could definitely take bigger. You could definitely put a bigger shear grab on it and definitely a bigger bucket, and I'd say you'd still be alright for your swing side to side. It is shockingly stable, to be perfectly honest. On level ground you go full side to side. You've seen in the video with the bale how much weight it takes to give it a bit of a wobble. But the first thing when I come to the yard is just getting over how much you could bring round, but it was shockingly stable. But I think, yeah, so I think on that note, it is something we would like to think that we get our hands on sometime in the future. Two things, if we were to ever buy one or buy a second-hand one, I'd like it 40k, because 30k is very slow, and I'd like a hitch on the back of it, one of them drop down hitches, to just give it more use. But very, very happy with it. Big thanks to Liam and LB Gremo for sending it down to us and letting us use it for so long. Jeez, we've had it way longer than I thought we were going to have it. A whole month. And it's just been absolutely amazing, an experience in itself, and the machine has basically sold itself to us. I'll be trying to get back into telly now, and I'll be trying to twist the knob, and it's not going to swing the boom around. But anyways, I'll leave it at that for today's video. I hope you enjoyed seeing the Paus loader working away in the yard. If you're interested in one or you want to find out more, you can get in contact with Liam in the description down below. His phone number's down there, and you never know, you may see one of these in the yard again, but not anytime soon. As Father Phil said, we'll have to change the loading shovel. We also may have another piece of kit bought, but you'll find out more about that later on in the year. So you can always stretch yourself too thin by buying all the things you want. So it's as much as we'd love to be keeping it, we just can't afford to keep it. Not this year. We're going to leave it there. I hope you enjoyed today's video. As always, please like and subscribe to the channel. Videos every Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday. That is it from us. Good luck. Gonna miss that joke.